The Vorkai Empire did not lose wars. Let me be absolutely clear before you assume this is some sentimental origin tale about humility and growth. No, we did not learn humility. We did not learn grace. We learned something far worse. We learned fear. And the source of that fear was, embarrassingly enough, a small, damp, oxygen-soaked rock orbiting an unremarkable yellow star in a forgettable corner of the galaxy. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Brakasu. At the time, I was a third-tier intelligence officer aboard the flagship of Supreme Commander Vale Corps, the most decorated military strategist in Vorkai history. 164 planetary campaigns. 164 victories. Entire civilizations had begged for mercy at his feet. Species that had endured for 10,000 years collapsed within weeks of his arrival. The Vorkai fleet was not merely an army. It was a statement. It was the universe whispering quietly but firmly, "You do not matter." So when we intercepted the signal from the third planet of the Sol system, no one was concerned. Primitive radio transmissions, Analyst Teb Oren reported, spinning lazily in his chair. Mostly internal disputes. Also a considerable amount of what appears to be music. Music, Commander Vale Corps repeated, as if someone had handed him an interesting insect. Yes, sir. Hundreds of thousands of variations. A significant percentage appear to concern heartbreak. A few officers chuckled. And their military capability? Corps asked. Teb brought up the data. He squinted, then enlarged it. They rely heavily on projectile-based weaponry. Chemical propellants. Some nations possess nuclear warheads, though their range and delivery systems are, by our standards, he paused delicately. Adorable. The bridge laughed. I laughed too. I'm not proud of that now. How long to reach the planet? Corps asked. 14 cycles, sir. Send the standard submission broadcast. Grant them 6 cycles to respond. He waved a dismissive hand. If they fail, we proceed as usual. The usual way. That phrase had ended 61 civilizations. Orbital bombardment of military infrastructure. Ground forces securing population centers. Resource extraction. Administrative takeover. Clean. Efficient. Brutal. We had optimized conquest to a science. We had published papers on it. 6 cycles passed. No formal surrender arrived. Well, that is not entirely accurate. A response came. It was simply not the response we expected. The transmission originated from a single human. Female, according to translation matrices, though their species' biological classifications are elaborate. She identified herself as Commander Eulabrin of the United Earth Defense Coalition. She sat calmly at a desk. Behind her were flags. Dozens of them. National emblems stitched together in what appeared to be an aggressively unified statement. She looked directly into the camera and spoke without visible emotion. We receive your message. We have been tracking your approach for 3 cycles. We know your fleet configuration. We know your weapon frequencies. We know your shield harmonics. A slight pause. We want you to understand that we are not afraid. We want you to understand that we are prepared. And we want you to understand, sincerely, that we are very, very good at this. The transmission ended. Silence gripped the bridge. She's bluffing, Teb Oren said. Obviously, I replied. Completely, someone muttered. Commander Vale Corps said nothing. He stared at the darkened screen where the human had been. His jaw tightened. His fingers curled slowly around the armrest. Sir, I asked quietly. He blinked once. Continue the approach. Initiate pre-bombardment scans. The scans returned 8 hours later. Teb delivered the data personally. That alone unsettled me. He handed me the pad without speaking. I reviewed the figures, then reviewed them again, and then, very carefully, I sat down. Teb, I said evenly, this indicates orbital defense platforms. Yes. 712. Yes. And each platform is equipped with weapons our scans cannot fully categorize. Teb did not answer. He only nodded. I placed the data pad gently on the console. Outside the viewport, the small blue planet grew larger. It looked fragile, delicate, completely unreasonable. She wasn't bluffing, I said quietly. Teb shook his head. And somewhere on that damp little world below us, I was certain Commander Eulabrin was already preparing for what came next. Here is something they do not teach you in Vorkai Military Academy. They do not teach you what to do when the species you came to conquer has already mapped your fleet, cataloged your weaknesses, and is, according to your own intelligence reports, eating something called a sandwich while waiting for you to make the first move. I know this because Teb, Orin, in a moment of disbelief, pulled visual feed from the human defense platforms. They were not panicking. They were not scrambling. One operator was leaning back in his chair, boots resting on a console, casually tossing a small round object into the air and catching it again, over and over, like someone passing time. That one, Teb said quietly, pointing at the feed, has not moved in 40 minutes. Is he asleep? I asked. No. His eyes are open. A pause. He's just waiting. I did not have language for what I felt then. The Vorkai language contains over 400 words for victory. It has 6 for uncertainty. I was rapidly exhausting all 6. Commander Vale Corps convened a strategy session. Senior officers gathered around the central projection table, where a holographic Earth rotated slowly above us. Calm, blue, almost decorative. Options, Corps said. General Pavdulk spoke first. We proceed as planned. Full orbital strike. Neutralize the defense platforms. Deploy ground forces within 2 cycles. We modeled that, Teb replied, projecting casualty estimates into the air. 40 to 60% fleet losses in the initial wave. If we breach orbital defenses, he hesitated. How long would ground resistance last? Corps asked. Teb swallowed. Indefinitely, sir. Silence. They have fought each other for their entire recorded history, Teb continued. Global wars, regional wars, civil wars, conflicts over territory, ideology, resources, and, on one occasion, a trade dispute involving spices. A pause. They are extraordinarily good at it. They have never fully stopped. Pavdulk frowned. What kind of species never stops fighting? The kind, I said before I could restrain myself, that would be deeply offended if someone else tried to do it for them. Several officers turned toward me. Earth continued rotating above us. Peaceful, infuriatingly so. Corps ordered a complete planetary intelligence sweep. Every broadcast, every transmission, every signal. If we were going to engage them, he wanted to understand them. Understanding did not improve matters. Within a single century, these humans had built enough weaponry to end their own civilization 17 times. They had survived plagues, ice ages, volcanic winters. They referred casually to something called a Monday morning commute. They split the atom for energy and almost immediately weaponized it. They created a global information network, filled it with arguments and images of small domesticated animals, and still advanced their science faster than any pre-contact species in our archives. Through catastrophe after catastrophe, collapse after collapse, they endured, not because it was logical, not because probability favored them, but because they were, by their own literature and behavioral patterns, irrationally stubborn. Commander Eulabrin transmitted again at the 90-hour mark. Same desk, same flags, same composure. She looked rested. That unsettled me more than anything. You've been sitting at the edge of our sensor range for 4 days, she began. We respect hesitation. We do. She folded her hands. But I think you deserve honesty. A slight breath. We have been at war, in some form, for most of our existence. We have lost billions. Buried nations. Watched cultures vanish. Her gaze did not waver. And every time, what emerged afterward was harder, faster, angrier, silence. So I'm going to offer you something no one has probably offered your empire before. Another small pause. You may leave, peacefully. No record, no shame. You came. You evaluated. You made a strategic decision. Her expression did not change. Or you can stay. That is also a decision. But make it knowing exactly what we are. The transmission ended. Corps stood at the viewport for a long time. The blue planet hung there, wet, loud, stubborn, impossibly resilient. A world that had spent its entire history sharpening itself against disaster. He turned to me. Brock, your recommendation? I thought about the human operator in orbit, boots on a console, tossing that small round object into the air. Waiting, not anxious, just ready. Sir, I said carefully, I recommend we go home. Core nodded once. Slowly, he returned to his command chair and, in a calm voice that did not tremble, ordered the fleet to reverse course. 164 campaigns. 164 victories. And then there was Earth, the world we never touched, the species we studied carefully and decided was not worth the risk of proving wrong. I filed my final report the following cycle. Threat classification, extreme. Then I added a supplemental advisory. Do not go back. We never did. The Vorkai Empire won 164 wars. Earth won without firing a shot. In this galaxy, that kind of power changes everything. Subscribe, because not every empire learns this lesson in time.